Awesome, awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Paula Langston Ware, CFNC Regional Outreach Director for the eastern part of the state. And we are thrilled that so many of you are joining us this evening for an exciting college access topic, finding and applying for the right scholarships. Before we get started, I did want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded and we will send a shared version of the presentation on our YouTube channel for you to access. Everyone will be muted during the presentation, and due to such a large turnout, we ask that you add questions in the Q&A box, not the chat box, but the Q&A box, and your questions will be addressed throughout the end of the presentation as well as the end of the presentation. Lastly, be sure to complete the short feedback survey at the conclusion of our webinar. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to our webinar presenter, Ms. Juana Hernandez.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to share this space and this evening with you all this beautiful evening. So as my colleague Paula mentioned, we're going to be talking about finding and applying for the right scholarships. I did want to first share that this presentation is being brought to you by College for North Carolina, which is a free resource for North Carolina students and their families to help you with planning, applying, paying, and saving for college. CFNC is possible through our SIX partnership that includes the University of the UNC system, College Foundation Incorporated, the North Carolina Community College System, North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, the private institutions, and the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority, who is our funding partner. So we all come together to provide CFNC, which is this free resource for all students in the state of North Carolina. We have our website, cfnc.org, where you can find pretty much everything that you need to know about planning, applying, and paying for college. We also have a call center where you can call to ask questions about planning, or if you have questions about your CFNC account, we have live representatives that are available via phone. In addition, we have 8 field representatives across the state that are supporting counselors and that are working with college advisors and community partners to help students with planning and applying for college. So as you're going to college fairs, or if you're attending a financial aid night or a college planning night, you may run into one of the CFNC representatives or associate outreach directors. So if you do, make sure you say hi to them. They're amazing. We are all an amazing team. A little bit more about CFNC. If you're don't have an account, I invite you to create an account. You will be able to monitor or to create your portal where you can save colleges and careers and do a lot more. But CFNC, again, as I mentioned, is focused on helping students with plan for your future. So if you're a student who's looking to plan for your future, whether that's planning for college, planning for a career, we have a lot of planner resources on our website, including a college search. We also have an opportunity for students to apply for college through our CFNC website. We have an application hub. So if you are applying to colleges and universities, you can apply to them through our CFNC application hub. If you're applying to a community college, you will be applying to a community college through CFNC's website. You can also request your high school transcripts through CFNC, in addition to requesting your NC residency determination online interview, or doing your online interview. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that is later on in the presentation. We have information on accounting out to college, and we have a lot of really great resources to help you pay for college, such as our scholarship surge, information on the FAFSA, information on the Next NC scholarship, which we'll be covering and talking about today during this presentation. We have financial aid calculators and much more. And lastly, we have information on saving for college. So if you're a parent who is looking to save for college, we have the NC 529 Education Savings Plan that you can visit our website and get more information on that. So again, CFNC has pretty much everything that you need to know when it comes to planning, applying, paying, and saving for college. So tonight we're going to be focusing on paying for college and talking about scholarships. So when it comes to scholarships, the first thing that we want to encourage all students to think about is completing the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. So the FAFSA is a federal form administered by the Department of Education, basically to determine if students are eligible for need-based financial aid, right? So you want to complete the form to see if you're eligible to receive federal aid. And a lot of state institutions or agencies or institutions like colleges and universities utilize the FAFSA or the information on the FAFSA to determine which type of aid or what type of aid the student may be eligible for. So again, we want you to consider the FAFSA as a number one step when applying for financial aid. So you may want to add the FAFSA as the number one thing or the top thing on your to-do list as you're applying and planning for college. It's important to note that the FAFSA opens on October 1st. And so if you're a senior, you can complete FAFSA starting on October 1st. Or if you're a student that has already graduated from high school, you can also apply starting on October 1st. It's also important to note that not all students are eligible to complete the free application for federal student aid. You must meet eligibility requirements, including being a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen. So just make sure that you are verifying your eligibility and make sure that you're looking at the different deadlines that the colleges and universities have in place for the FAFSA form. Another form that may be required or asked about from the different schools is the CSS Profile, or the College Scholarship Service Profile, which is an online application managed by managed by the College Board, and it's to award non-federal funding. And so there are 5 institutions here in North Carolina that do have the CSS profile or ask students to complete the CSS profile. And these institutions include UNC Chapel Hill, Elon, Duke, Davidson, and Wake Forest. So if you're planning to attend any of these institutions that I've listed, you may want to check with the college and see what the deadlines are for the CSS profile. It's typically available also on October 1st, but again, you may want to check with the institution to see what are the other deadlines or what are the other requirements or process to complete the CSS profile. So now moving forward and talking about scholarships. So again, first things you want to add to your list is FAFSA, and then look in which schools you want to attend, which ones ask or offer the CSS profile, and kind of do those first, right? Or seeing which schools may have other financial aid forms that they may want you to complete before applying to scholarships. So there are different scholarship categories. We're going to be reviewing each of these in the next few slides. We're going to be reviewing merit-based scholarships, need-based scholarships, and scholarships that are based by demographic or field of study. So merit-based scholarships are basically scholarships that are focused on students' abilities, achievement, or potential, right? So some of these scholarships can be scholarships that are looking at the student's academic excellence, whether the student, perhaps the student has a really high GPA, perhaps they scored a very high test score in the SAT or ACT. And so they may be wanting to look at scholarships that are merit-based or that are focused on the student's academic excellence. These scholarships may also include scholarships for students that are leaders in their schools and their communities. So merit-based scholarships are focused on leadership. So if you're a student that maybe you were student president or the class president, maybe you were the president for one of your clubs, or you are a leader at your church and your community, you may want to consider looking at merit-based scholarships as well. There's scholarships also that are focused on supporting athletes. So you're an athlete, you may want to look into the Athletic Scholarship Corporation. I added some examples here of the various scholarships to your right of the screen. There's also scholarships for folks that like the performing arts, right? If you like to sing, if you like to dance, there are merit-based scholarships for students that are particularly talented in those fields. Or if you're a student who has given back to your community, perhaps you have hundreds and thousands of hours worth of community service, and you may want to consider merit-based scholarships that are focused on community service. And one thing that I did want to note is that there are scholarships that are a combination of various categories, right? So you may find scholarships that are merit-based and also need-based, or that are merit-based and also focus on a field of study. So that's one of the things that we need to kind of keep in mind as we're talking or thinking about scholarships. And here's an example of a scholarship that is merit-based, but it's also need-based. So the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation is a merit-based scholarship that focuses on academic excellence. It also focuses on leadership, but it is for students that come from households that are making under $65,000, for example. And so again, this scholarship here is merit-based, need-based, and has other characteristics. And so it's very important that when we're looking or searching for scholarships that we are paying close attention to what are the requirements, what is it asking for, and what category it falls in. And then also organizing ourselves, right? If you're a student who's looking for merit-based scholarships, then how do we look for those scholarships and focusing on looking for those scholarships? There's also need-based scholarships, and these scholarships are primarily for students that come from low-income backgrounds or financially disadvantaged backgrounds. With need-based scholarships, we have to keep in mind that oftentimes the organization or the institution that is providing the scholarship may require documentation, and that could be the copy of the FAFSA. That's why, again, FAFSA is very important. If you're eligible, make sure that you are completing your FAFSA, because some of the scholarships may require or ask you to provide a copy of your student aid report from the FAFSA. Or they may require, again, like the CSS profile at some of the colleges. Some scholarships may ask for income documentation. If you are not eligible for the FAFSA, they may ask for copy of your tax returns. They may ask for your parents' W-2s. And so again, just keep in mind that when it comes to need-based scholarships, it is solely focused on need, and that's why they oftentimes require certain documentations. And so I've added some examples here of some scholarship programs, like the Jack Kent Cook is a scholarship program for students that, again, this is a combination of merit and need-based for students that have need, but also students that have academic excellence. And so some other scholarships that are need-based are the Gates Scholarship, Questbridge, and also the State Education Assistance Authority, or the state of North Carolina, offers some scholarships for students living in certain areas of the state that are need-based. We have the Aubrey Lee Brooks Scholars and the Golden Leaf Scholarship. There are also scholarships based on demographics, right? So based on identity, the student's background, or personal characteristics. So for example, if you are a female that is interested in going into STEM fields, you may want to look for gender-based scholarships, right? So these gender-based scholarships could be for individuals that are going into careers that maybe females or males are underrepresented, right? So again, I gave the example of a female going to a STEM field. And so finding scholarships in those areas may be beneficial for students. There's also scholarships based on ethnicity or race. For example, there is the Hispanic Scholarship Fund for students that identify as Hispanic or Latino. And then there is American Indian College Fund for students that come from American Indian backgrounds. There's also LGBTQ scholarships for folks that identify as LGBTQ or their allies. Here I've included an example. The Point Foundation is a really great resource for folks that are LGBTQ or are allies. And so I really encourage you to take a look at some of those opportunities as well. Demographic scholarships also are for students that are that may have a certain disability. The state of North Carolina has, or there is a scholarship here in North Carolina, the Matthew G. Scholarship for students with disabilities going into a college or university. Some of these scholarships may be specific to religion or faith, specific for first generation students, or even for refugee or immigrant backgrounds. So for students that come from refugee or immigrant backgrounds, there's a really great scholarship. The Dream US Scholarship is a great opportunity for students that come from immigrant refugee backgrounds. It's not tied to residency, it's not tied to NC to citizenship or NC residency. So again, these are just some of the examples of the type of demographic scholarships that are based on identity, background, and personal characteristics that we can consider. So it's really important that when we're searching for scholarships that we kind of like take a step back and think about what makes me unique. What makes me unique? What makes me different? What characteristics do I have that help me stand out from my peers? And then kind of making a list and kind of going through that list and searching for scholarships that meet those characteristics that you have. There are also scholarships that are based on field of study, so specific academic or professional disciplines. For example, I mentioned STEM. The Great Minds in STEM is a really great national scholarship program for students that are going into different STEM fields. If you're going into business or law, there are various organizations that are supporting students that are going into business or law, arts and humanities, medical field, the healthcare, or even education. So if you're going to education, you may want to look into the Teach Grant, which is a really great program. Also, if you're going into medical or healthcare, you may want to look at the Tylenol scholarship, which is focused for students in the medical field and to the healthcare field. So again, depending on what you want to study, and this is not an exhaustive list, these are just some examples. So depending what you want to study, you may want to also focus on searching for scholarships in the areas that you want to study. So just keep in mind again that different scholarships are going to have various criteria, and it can be a mixture of the different categories, like I mentioned, need-based, merit-based, and there might be a scholarship that's need-based and merit-based, but you have to maybe be Hispanic or Latino, or you may have to be a student who is African American or Black, or just fall within certain categories. So you just want to pay close attention to the different categories, criteria, and be very intentional and what the type of scholarships that you're going to be looking for so that you're not kind of scrambling to find scholarships. So where can we find scholarships? There are four main areas that we encourage students to kind of do their scholarship search. So there are local scholarships, there are state scholarships, institutional scholarships, and national scholarships. So with local scholarships, these scholarships are pretty much scholarships in your backyard, right? So there might be a church in your community who is offering a scholarship to students that are graduating from that are attending that church. There may be a community-based organization in your community that wants to support students going to a college or a university, or there might be a private organization or a local business. There may even be an employer. If you're working, you may want to ask your employer if there are any scholarship opportunities or sponsorship opportunities, or the place where your parents are working, right? So if your parents are working for a company, have them ask if there are any scholarships for their children. And so definitely make sure that we're asking questions. One of the best resources for local scholarships is your school counselors. School counselors are great at knowing the various scholarship opportunities and also your school websites. I have seen that many websites or many schools have a list of scholarships on their websites because the counselors are working really hard to kind of update the different scholarships. And so ask your counselor if they have a scholarship list, and if they don't have one, try to see if you can ask a college advisor or just ask around and start asking uh, folks whether or not they know of scholarship opportunities. I wanted to give you all some examples of different scholarship opportunities that are community-based organizations. So the Triangle Community Foundation is a community organization that is supporting students in Wake, Durham, Orange, and surrounding counties. And so this organization offers over 43 scholarships for certain students. And so it's one application. And what they do is they connect the students to the applications that they are eligible for, right? So some of the scholarships that they have are for students graduating from specific high schools. Some of the scholarships that they have are for students that are graduating and going into a certain career field, or students that are graduating and perhaps maybe they are immigrant students. And so again, it's each scholarship has its own characteristics, but I really like how the Community Triangle Foundation has one scholarship application and they connect students to the scholarships that they are eligible for. So again, just ask around, see what type of scholarship opportunities are available, look at the local community based organizations. Another example here is LAWA, who supports the western part of the state, so Charlotte and surrounding counties. They offer scholarships there, and then the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina offers various scholarship opportunities as well. So there are so many scholarships all over the state of North Carolina and the country. And so it's just a matter of asking questions, staying organized, and applying. One thing I would like to know about local scholarships is that the reward or the award may be on the smaller end, and but they are also less competitive, right? So just because you see a scholarship for $500 and you may think, oh, that's not a lot of money, but don't let that stop you from applying because you may have higher chances of getting a local scholarship than getting a state scholarship or national scholarship, right? So apply to as many local scholarships as you can because, again, the competition is not as big as if you're applying to other scholarships that are state or national. With state scholarships, these scholarships tend to be a little bit more competitive. Think about local, you're probably competing against students in your high school. You're probably competing against students in your county or your region. With state scholarships, oftentimes you're competing against students across the entire state of North Carolina. And so they tend to be more competitive and they may even ask for more requirements. They may ask for example, some of these scholarships, because the award is bigger, they may ask more of the student, right? Letters of recommendation, essays, and resumes, and just more requirements. So just keep that in mind. Some of the main resources for state scholarships is our website, College for North Carolina. We have a scholarship search tool. Many of the scholarships that we have on our website right now, we have a little over 100 scholarships, are specifically for students that are in North Carolina. So if you're a North Carolina student, North Carolina resident, you can qualify for many of those scholarships. One of the cool things also about our scholarship search is the filters that we have that allows you to search for scholarships based on region, based on the type of scholarship, based on whether or not you are a North Carolina resident or not. And so again, just really great resource here for the state of North Carolina and for students to search for scholarships. Some other resources are the North Carolina Community Foundation and Foundations for the Carolinas. When it comes to state scholarships, they're usually offered by state organizations, employers, and other statewide community organizations as well. I'll share some examples of state organizations, for example, or state organizations that are offering scholarships. For example, here in North Carolina, we have the Residency Scholarship, and I also mentioned some of the state scholarships that SCAA offers, the Aubrey Lee Brooks and the Golden Leaf Scholarship. With a lot of the state scholarships, they do require students to be North Carolina residents. And so in order to validate your residency, you do have to complete the NC residency determination online interview. So as I mentioned, in North Carolina, we have the Residency Scholarship, which is a state program to help students with paying for college. And so for students that are coming from households that make under $80,000, or if they have an SAI student aid index on the FAFSA of 7,500 or lower, they can earn at least $3,000 per year to attend a community college or earn at least $5,000 a year if they go to one of the 16 public institutions. And so this is a really great scholarship program, and it's basically a combination of federal aid, state aid, and institutional aid for students. So again, to qualify for this, you just have to complete the FAFSA and complete the NC residency determination. And again, this is for students that are going to community college and that are going to one of the 16 public institutions. The private institutions here in North Carolina do have a scholarship opportunity also for students. It is a need-based scholarship, and students do need to complete FAFSA. They do need to meet Pell Grant requirements, and they also need to be considered North Carolina residents. So if you're going to a private school, there are some opportunities there. So a little bit about NC residency determination, just because I keep mentioning NC residency. North Carolina does have a centralized and uniform process to help determine whether or not the student is going to be considered a North Carolina resident. And this is going to determine whether they are eligible for in-state tuition and whether or not they're eligible to receive state financial aid. And so in order to complete this application, students should visit ncresidency.org. Students can use their CFNC.org username and password to complete the application. If they don't have a CFNC username and password, they can go ahead and create one, but they can use the same username and password for their CFNC account. So when completing the NC residency, students will be asked or required to enter parent information if they have it. And so just make sure that you are entering your information carefully, that you're answering all the questions. And at the end of the application, you will receive a residency certification number. This RCN is a number that the institutions will eventually get, the institutions that you're applying to. They're eventually going to get this number, and it is what's going to help them know whether you have been determined a North Carolina resident or not. If you complete this application and you want to do an appeal, you can do an appeal, and there's a process for all of that. But this is the application that you will utilize to determine whether or not you are a North Carolina resident. With institutional scholarships, these are scholarships that are offered directly by the colleges or the universities. These can be full ride scholarships, these can be partial scholarships, right? So NC State University has the PAC Scholars Program, which is a full ride scholarship. This is a scholarship that is based on merit. It's based on need, leadership, and so it's a very competitive scholarship. UNC Chapel Hill also has a full ride scholarship. And so many institutions here in North Carolina offer full ride scholarships. And I want to say most, if not all, offer partial scholarships or offer scholarships for students. So some of the scholarships could either be also offered by certain colleges or departments, right? So I'll give you the example with NC State. NC State is the university. So you may receive a scholarship by the university, or you may receive a scholarship by one of the colleges from the university, right? So the College of Humanities and Social Sciences or the College of Engineering. And within those colleges, there are departments. And so you might get a scholarship for social work within the social work department. And so you want to make sure that while you're looking at institutional scholarships, that you're not only just looking at the full ride scholarships or those very popular scholarships that a lot of people hear about, right? You want to look at like, okay, this is the college that I'm going into, this is the department that I'm going to be in, and then what scholarship opportunities are available for students that are going into this college or going into this department. It's also important to keep in mind that with institutional scholarships, especially for those full ride scholarships, they have very strict deadlines. They're very competitive scholarships, and so they have very strict requirements, right? So if you want to be considered for one of the big scholarships at one of the institutions, you want to make sure that you are applying early. A lot of the schools require that students complete their early action application in order to be eligible for some of these scholarships. And so again, making sure that you're checking those deadlines, checking to see what the requirements are. Some of these scholarships may even require a recommendation from your teacher before you can even apply to the scholarship. So lots of things to consider, lots of things to look at when we're thinking about institutional scholarships, especially those that are very competitive and can help pay for most of student cost. And I think I mentioned this already, but your application oftentimes has to be submitted in order to be eligible for these scholarships, right? So again, you want to go to your school's, the college or university that you're planning to attend. You want to go to their website. A lot of them have a list of scholarships there. You can even, when you're going to college fairs, and if you're connecting with the admissions representatives, ask them about scholarship opportunities. You can also reach out to financial aid representatives and ask them questions about scholarship opportunities as well. Now, with national scholarships, I want to say are maybe the most competitive, right? Because not only are you competing against students in your communities or in the state of North Carolina, you're competing against students from all over the country. And so sometimes national scholarships, again, may require a lot of preparation, may require a lot of the student, right? And so a lot of preparation, recommendation letters, resume. You may even need to do an interview for these scholarships. And a lot of institutional scholarships, especially full-ride scholarships, they do ask for interviews as well, right? So it's going to require a lot of preparation. So with national scholarships, they're often offered by national organizations, foundations, government agencies. And so with national scholarships also, they're not necessarily tied to citizenship always, and they're not necessarily tied to North Carolina residency. So if you are a student who may not qualify for North Carolina residency or may not be a North Carolina resident, you may want to look at national scholarships because oftentimes they don't really look at that, right? And so I've included here some examples of where you can search for national scholarships. On CFNC's website, we do have some scholarships for students that are not tied to North Carolina residency for specific students. So you may see some of those on the CFNC scholarship search. But here, again, here are some resources for you all to you can take a screenshot and save for later when you're applying for these scholarships. All right, so now let's go into some scholarship tips. So one of the scholarship tips and the number one scholarship tip that we want to share with students is to start early. The earlier you start, the more time you're going to have, the more organized you're going to be. You're not going to be scrambling. Your senior year is such an important year for you, right? You're doing applications, you're completing FAFSA, you're applying for scholarships, you're trying to maintain those A's and B's and doing sports. You're doing a lot, right? So you want to make sure that you are starting early, that you're organizing yourself. If you are a 11th grader, a junior, I want to say go ahead and start planning for scholarships. It's definitely not too early. So you want to create a scholarship calendar or a scholarship spreadsheet. And on this calendar, on this spreadsheet, you may want to include the name of the scholarship that you're planning on applying to. You may want to include the link. You want to include deadlines. You want to include the requirements, and just double check to see whether or not you're eligible. And just check the ones that you're eligible and just delete the ones that you're not eligible for. So you can even put the amounts, right? Like what is the amount that this scholarship is offering? That way, when you're ready to apply for the scholarship, you're kind of going down your list and you're prioritizing the ones that you want to apply to if you're limited on time. You also want to make sure that when you're applying to scholarships, that you have a professional email address or that you're using an email address that is not your high school email address. Oftentimes, your high school email address, once you graduate from high school, is no longer active. So you want to make sure that you have an email address that you are using for college and scholarship purposes. And also, when you're looking at scholarships, you want to look at the requirements, but you also want to see whether or not that scholarship is renewable, right? You want to make sure that you're trying to maintain keep that money coming while you're in and college, so that you're not kind of every year scrambling looking for how to pay for college. So see if it's renewable. You may want to prioritize those renewable scholarships, and so definitely make sure that you're looking at that and read about prior winners. Many of the scholarship websites, they have the stories of their winners on their page, right? So sometimes I love going in there and just kind of reading the stories of why a student got selected. So it gives you an idea of what type of recipient they are looking for. So go on the website, learn about that scholarship winner, what made them unique, what made them stand out, and then that may give you some ideas and that might help you as you're planning and preparing for your scholarship or to apply. Oops. And let me see, let me just make sure. Okay. Another great tip here is just to make sure that you are organized and that you have important documents ready. Depending on the scholarship, they may ask for a copy of your transcript, whether might be unofficial transcript. They may ask for letters of recommendation, a resume. They may ask for financial aid documents, whether that's a copy of your tax return, whether that's a copy of your student aid report. And so you want to make sure that you have these documents in hand so that whenever it's time for you to submit your scholarship application, you have all of that information ready and available. You don't have to scramble or kind of rush to get everything ready. And so scholarships have really strict deadlines, and scholarships, they have very strict requirements. And so if you don't meet some of these requirements, or if you submit your application late or you don't submit your transcript, sometimes that can be a reason for them to not take you into consideration for the scholarship, right? They can just discard your application. So you want to make sure that you have everything in hand, that you are organized and that you're prepared. You also want to make sure that you're checking eligibility and that you're reading the criteria carefully. I talked about the different categories, the different things that different scholarship organizations are looking for. And so you want to make sure that you're looking at the eligibility criteria, make sure that you, in fact, are eligible for that scholarship, because I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to students that have shared that they start doing an application, they write their essay, they get their recommendation letter, but then they realize that they actually were not eligible to receive that scholarship, right? So it's been like, now it's been kind of a waste of time, but for them. So again, just make sure that you're checking. I talked about, making sure to see whether it's renewable. What are the criteria? Do you have to maintain a certain GPA? While you get the scholarship, do you have to do a certain community service? Do you have to be part of a certain mentoring program? Some of these scholarships do require students to participate in mentorship programs, to do community service, to kind of like stay engaged and connect with the scholarship recipients, with other scholarship recipients, or even to kind of just stay engaged with mentors that they may have to connect with because of part of the scholarship. So again, just make sure that you're looking at what all comes with the financial award that you'll be getting for the certain scholarships. I mentioned that some scholarships may require interviews. So you want to practice for interviews. You may want to practice with your parents. You may want to practice with someone at your school, a mentor, someone that can help you kind of get ready for scholarship interviews. Or just interviews in general, right? Like just your demeanor, the way that you're dressed, all of that makes a difference. Some other scholarship tips include writing strong essays. Not all scholarships are going to ask for you to complete an essay. You can actually look for scholarships that don't require essays, but many scholarships, especially scholarships that have large awards, will require an essay. So when you're doing the essay, you just want to make sure that you are addressing the essay prompt, and that if you're using the same or similar essay that maybe you did for another scholarship or that you did for a college application, just make sure that you are updating it, that you're making it, that it fits what it's asking you, right? You just want to, don't just copy and paste, or no, don't just like take one essay and submit it. You just want to be very intentional, because the essay really is an opportunity for you to tell your story. It really is the opportunity for you to focus on the impact and growth. What are those challenges that you have had to overcome? What is a barrier that you faced that you um, have overcome? So I will say that being part of scholarship committees, I've been part of several scholarship committees, and it is the essay. It is the essay that will determine whether or not the student gets a scholarship. When it comes down to two students, right? When we have to figure, okay, which of these two students or which of these four students should get the scholarship, it comes down to which student was more authentic, genuine, which student was more vulnerable, for lack of a better word, which student was able to tell their story in a way that was compelling, in a way that showed that the student um, was able to grow from an experience that they had, that the student was able to overcome a certain challenge, or that the student has really clear career goals and knows exactly what they want to do, right? So, for example, sometimes students, the scholarship essay can be, what do you want to do in a field and STEM? What do you want to do in a field of nursing? And so there are students that they're just very great at articulating and writing their story and talk about their career goals and their paths. And, if they get this money, how is this going to impact them? So again, you want to really pay a lot of attention and be very intentional when it comes to writing these essays. Make sure that you are spell checking and proofreading and having somebody else review them and looking at it before submitting. In addition, you may be asked for letters of recommendations. Typically, I see average is like 2 letters per essay. And so you want to make sure that you are, again, intentional in selecting the individuals that are going to write your recommendation letter. And oftentimes it does have to be somebody in your school or in your community, right? It can't be a friend or a parent or a family member. Some scholarships do allow that, but oftentimes they do require it being from someone at your school. So think about, right? So if you have to ask, do you know who are the 2 people or 3 people or 4 people that you can ask to write your recommendation letter? I love to ask this question to students because it gets them thinking, like, do I have 2 people that can really write me strong recommendation letters, right? And so you want to start reaching out to those individuals that will be willing to write recommendation letters for you. Just go ahead and let them know, like, hey, I'm thinking about applying to college. I'm thinking about applying for scholarships. And, would you be willing to write me a recommendation letter? And you want to make sure that you're giving them plenty of time, right? That's 2 or 3 weeks for them to write you a recommendation. You don't want it to be rushed. You want them to take their time. You also want to provide them with a brag sheet or a resume to kind of help them write those recommendation letters so they can talk about your involvement, your skills, any awards that you've received, any recognitions. So you want to make sure that you're providing them with that information to make it easier for them to write those letters of recommendation. And you also want to provide them with the scholarship information. So if you're applying to a scholarship that is for students that are going into the nursing field, then you want to make sure that you're providing that detail there. That way they're able to mention that in the in the recommendation. And then lastly, you just want to avoid scams. You never have to pay to apply for scholarships. And if somebody ever tells you, hey, if you pay, you're guaranteed to get X amount of dollars in scholarships, then I don't know, to me that sounds too good to be true. So just want to make sure that you're very careful with the information that you're sharing. You want to make sure that you are making sure that organizations are legit. So if they're asking you for social security number, you may want to double check just to make sure that they are a legit organization before providing sensitive information. And lastly, don't be discouraged if you don't receive scholarships right away. You may receive more no's than yes, right? There are so many students that may be applying for the same scholarships that you're applying for. Don't get discouraged. There's not a limit of the number of scholarships that you can apply to. Apply to as many as you can, and just again, don't get discouraged. If you get those no's, you may get a really good yes. Okay, so don't let that discourage you. All right, so now we'll just finish off with sharing some other unique opportunities for paying for college. So I did want to share that there is an education training voucher for youth and foster care. So the ETV is designed for students that are currently in foster care or formerly in foster care, and this is to help them pay for career school or vocational training. These grants are available for up to 5,000 per year for 5 years. Funding is limited and it is distributed on a first come first served basis. So you want to make sure that if you do fall under this category and if you are eligible for this scholarship that you're applying early to be considered. This this grant can be combined with other grants and scholarships to help students pay for school fees and tuition. And so if you want to learn more information about the ETV voucher, visit ncreach.org. There's another grant or scholarship available for students from that were formerly experiencing foster care, pay for college, and this is this is the NC Reach program. So with NC Reach, it's for students that are going to college that were formerly experiencing foster care, and it's for students that are going to either a 4-year public institution or a community college, right? So this would not, if you're going to a private school, you would not be eligible for this. So it has to be public 4-year or community college. And so again, you want to make sure that you're looking at the deadlines. This can be awarded with other financial aid. And so this is awarded after other financial aid and scholarships have been processed, right? So honestly, this can really help pay most of tuition and college expenses for students that have formerly experienced foster care. There's also the GI Bill education benefits designed to help active duty service members or veterans or members of the National Guard or Reserves to pay for tuition, and it can cover up to 48 months of education benefits. And if they don't use it, they do have the opportunity to transfer these benefits to a dependent child or their spouse. And so if you're interested in learning more about the GI Bill education benefits, you can check the Veterans Administration's website in regards to this. In addition, the University of North Carolina system, which includes the 16 public institutions, has the NC Promise program, which is a program that makes college more affordable at certain colleges and universities. And so there are 4 participating universities for the NC Promise program. I've included a star beside their names just so you can kind of see the location. But Elizabeth City State University, up here in Eastern North Carolina, University of Pembroke, right here, Fayetteville State University, and Western North Carolina University. So these 4 institutions have a reduced tuition rate of $500 for North Carolina residents. And if you are considered or if you're not a North Carolina resident, then tuition is $2,500 for the semester. So 500 for North Carolina residents, 2,500 for non-residents. And then also there is the fixed tuition program, which basically it's a program with the UNC system also that states that any freshman that enrolls into any of these 16 public institutions, that their tuition will not increase if they are enrolled for 4 consecutive years at that institution, right? So we don't have to worry about tuition increasing every year if you're enrolled as a freshman and you attend consecutively. Some other ways to save money for college or earn college credit is through Career and College Promise and through earning college credit while you're in high school. So as a high school student, you have the opportunity to earn free college credits. And so that's whether if you take AP courses, IB courses, if you do dual enrollment where you're taking classes at a college and high school courses, if you're at a middle college or early college and you're able to graduate with your associate's degree, or graduate with some college credits, or even taking a college level examination program. All of these are ways to help students save money for college and then also get more prepared, right? You're taking rigorous courses and you're demonstrating colleges and universities that you are prepared to take on the rigorous college courses on their campuses. So it's a really great way to save money and to be prepared. One thing to know about earning college credits is that not all colleges accept early college credit, and not all um, colleges accept the college level examination program credit. So you want to make sure that before you take a test or before you do a course, and if you know which colleges or universities you want to attend, that you are double checking to see what are the individual colleges' rules of acceptance for various courses or various examinations. We also have in North Carolina, the North Carolina Forgivable Education Loan for Service, which is a loan but can become a scholarship. And so basically what it does, it's a loan program that is offered to students that are going into certain fields. So if you're a student that's going into nursing, teaching, allied health field, or medicine, you can apply for the loan. And as long as you um, graduate with that field, and as long as you work in the approved field, you don't have to pay that money back. So if you receive the loan for 2 years and you work in that field and you graduate in the approved field or that program, then you don't have to pay it back. So it's really important that you are talking to the individual that administers or that oversees the loan program at your school. Each school has an assigned person that can help with this. You can apply for this or look for more information about this on cfnc.org /FAILS. And so we do have the eligible programs listed on there. So again, you have the eligible programs, make sure that you're looking at the programs. And oftentimes some students can't apply for this until they're in their last 2 years of until they've declared their major, right? You want to make sure that students are intentional and that they're serious about going into these fields, because we don't want students just going into their first year of school and then changing their majors and then they're stuck with the loan. We want to make sure that students are able to for it to be forgiven for students. There's also the NC Assist No Essay Scholarship. So NC Assist is a loan that is offered through College Foundation Incorporated. And so every month, students can enter to be considered for the loan. It's a random drawing. And so there's no essay required to participate in this no scholarship or no essay scholarship. So again, you can visit the website, you complete a form, and you will be entered to be randomly selected or chosen to receive the $1,000 scholarship. And well, that's all I have for you folks. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me this evening. I hope that this information was valuable, and I hope that you've taken a lot of information that can help you get ready as you apply for scholarships and apply for the various financial aid opportunities available here in North Carolina and across the country. Our next webinar is going to be on October 2nd at 6 p.m. And it's going to kind of continue the conversation on how to pay for college. And so we'll talk a little bit more about the FAFSA. We'll talk a lot about more ways. We'll talk a little bit more about more ways or creative ways to pay for college. So we invite you to join us on October 2nd at 6 p.m. To register, you can go to the QR code or visit cfnc.org/events, where you can find all of our upcoming events in the future. And we ask you to stay connected. You can follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, or YouTube, where you will find a recording of this webinar along with many other tools and resources and other webinars that we have recorded. I want to thank you all for your time, and I'm going to pause now so we can kind of check. I want to check in with my colleagues that have been in the background supporting with answering questions. So I'll pause here and see if maybe Paula has any Anything
Well, I
to
don't have any
share?
questions. Well, I want to answer one question. The question is, will this be recorded and sent out? And so this webinar has been recorded and it will be sent out to all registered and attendees this evening. It also will be posted on our YouTube channel. So you have multiple ways that you can access this recording. Any other questions? There was a question, Juana, that came up that asked if you can give some examples of who students can contact to write their letter of recommendation.
Yeah, so it depends. You can contact, a lot of students ask their school counselors, but you can ask a teacher, you can ask a coach, you can ask, if you have a really great relationship with the librarian, you can ask the librarian. If you have a great relationship with your bus driver, you can ask your bus driver, right? You wanna think about asking those individuals that can talk about your character as a student, that can highlight your qualities, your skills, someone that perhaps knows your story, right? If you had some barriers, some struggles that you dealt with, and you were able to overcome that, um, you may want to ask those folks that are kind of closer to you, right? But if you, let's say if you're applying for a STEM scholarship, then you may want to think about asking your math teacher, your science teacher. Um, so it really depends on the relationships that the students have. Um, I think that depending on the relationship the student has with the individual is going to depend what their recommendation letter looks like, right? We've seen some really basic recommendation letters, very generic, and then we've seen some recommendation letters that are very unique and very intentional. And you can just tell that the student and the recommender have a really great relationship.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I was asking a question, but I was muted. One question that came through is, when is the best time to apply for scholarships, your junior or senior year?
Typically scholarships open senior year of um yeah, during their senior years. And so it really depends also on when the scholarships are open. I think junior year is a really great opportunity for students to start their scholarship search and just kind of start making their calendar, their list. And you can do this now during senior year, right? But you might just kind of be more limited to different scholarship opportunities. Right now, it's actually a really great time. It's early on in the year. A lot of scholarships are starting to open. Some of them don't open until the spring semester. Um, so right now, if you're a senior now, you want to start applying now. If you're a junior, you may want to start the process of getting prepared and getting organized, and doing your scholarship search now. And then when you become a senior, then you can start applying. And I also want to mention that if you are a student that is in college, there are still scholarship opportunities available to you, right? So scholarships are not just for seniors. There are many scholarships for students that are already in college. So even once you graduate from college, your scholarship search, excuse me, once you graduate from high school, you can still search for scholarships, right? To help you kind of pay. That's why I'm telling you the renewable scholarships are really great options. That way you don't have to worry about finding so many scholarship opportunities. But yes, you don't want to stop searching for scholarships even after you graduate from high school.
Okay. Do any of our colleagues that are on here, is there any questions that you want to share? Okay. Well, if not, we want to thank you again, Juana, for this great webinar. And again, the recording will be available for all registered and attendees, and it will also be placed on our YouTube channel for you to access. Again, thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming webinar.
Thank you.